Feels like better fish, this one. Ended up winding in last night. Had 2 more after that initial bite. Both smaller ones, this year's stockies. I was so tired. Decided to wind in. I put them back out this morning at just before first light. Put a dozen spons out first. The small fish pretty close after putting the rods out, probably within half an hour. And this rod has gone again. And interestingly, I've changed the hook baits, swapped over the one that was going on the left to the right, and kept the one that didn't go, put that on the left, and it hasn't gone, and now the right's gone twice. So at the moment, my previous favourite, which was the isotonic dumbbell, an IB dumbbell flavoured with isotonic, is not doing the bites, and a little almond dumbbell boosted with the pink almond is doing the bites. So get this one in, I will be changing them all to almond. There's the bubbles coming up now, blowing a bit of air. Properly rucking this fish. Oh, tipped over the dorsal there, probably on the line. Common. Come on, mate. That's a better one. Get in that net. Bosh, got him. Yes. Nice. Nice, nice. There we go. Well, the mist has finally cleared. It's a glorious day now. You wouldn't think it was January. And believe it or not, the fish really like these weather conditions on this particular lake. So I am expecting more bites. I've put more spons out since getting this one. All 3 rods are now on almond, all tipped off with those little plastic maggots. I'm just going to keep working that area now. And on any lake, summer or winter, if they're heavily stocked and the fish are like this, young and growing, then it can almost feel like summer sometimes. And the trick is to put more bait in when you need to, but don't put more in when you don't. And it's very easy to watch somebody else catching and keep baiting your swim, and you're not getting anything, and then you can overdo it. So definitely let the number of bites dictate how much bait you put in. I'm sure anyone that's done loads of winter fishing will agree that hook bait choice is absolutely critical at this time of the year. So I'm going to talk you through what I've brought with me. Obviously I've ended up sort of swapping hook baits during the session, and this is what I'm catching on now. It says there's a real mixture in there, but basically everything in there is flavoured with the isotonic GOO, but more importantly it's the plastic that's in there. So I've got a pot that's just got plastic soaking all the time. This is the IB plastic, the yellow one. You can see that I've got dumbbells in there, I've got bits of fake maize, bits of fake corn. Depending on what lake I'm fishing and what I'm fishing over, you know, I will change those around. And you see I've got a few actual baits in there, some bottom baits, some fibre bottom baits that I've dried out and put in there and soaked in the isotonic as well. Something you don't see a lot of people do at all is just soaking a bottom bait in a GOO and then maybe tipping it off with a bit of plastic corn. So the bottom of the bait is still touching the bottom of the lake. It's not wafting around, but there's a bit of plastic on top of it as a sight bob, bit more traction as well, and a little bit more buoyancy so the whole lot flies up into their mouth. That, you know, was a really, really fashionable way to fish a few years ago. Boilie underneath, bit of plastic on top, and it seems to have fallen out of favour for some reason. I did really well on that here, fishing a bit of garlic plastic over the top of a new fish meal boilie that I'm working on with mainline in the summer. That worked brilliantly, and I think there is definitely mileage to having the bottom of the hook bait touching the lake bed in places where wafters get overused. I think the fish can ignore them at times, so that's a really good thing, you know, to put into your fishing, summer and winter. I'll just pour a few of them out. You can see, you know, I've just basically got a selection of different plastic hook baits. I've got pop-ups and slow sinkers. I'm using 2 slow sinkers on the hair at the moment. Obviously a pop-up's really good if you want to fish as a pop-up, or if you want to tip a boilie off and give it a little bit more buoyancy. So that's my sort of isotonic ones that complement the IB really well. The next ones I've got here, some white corn as well, white maize, white dumbbells. And this one is flavoured with buttercorn goo. Again, a very sort of smooth, rounded sort of smell, but a really penetrating one, a really strong one. You see there obviously got a few of the fibre dumbbells and fibre bottom baits in there as well, soaking in it. And I'm definitely going to give white a try. White over the top of yellow can be really, really good. Sometimes you find fishing exactly the same colour as your feeding gets you more bites. Other times a contrasting colour can get you more bites. And I remember back in the underwater days when we fished at St John's, pink over the top of yellow was absolutely devastating. And I've not tried it here yet, but I will definitely give it a go during the session. White's a great colour. Tipping a boilie off with white, you know, just fishing white on his own is a brilliant colour. Most boilies end up looking white once they've washed out their colour and all their flavours and stuff. So it's just a bait that looks like it's been out there a long time. And a little dot of white amongst a load of other colours can be a brilliant hook bait. So that's one I always bring with me. Let's go for a complete contrast now. Garlic. So these are little dumbbells that Mainline have made us. If you saw the show that we did out at Parco del Brenta, this is what I caught loads of fish on out there. So these little tiny squid dumbbells that are flavoured with the Garlic Supreme goo. That's bright orange, so it turns them orange. If I break one of those in half, it's sort of pink in the middle. Once you put the goo on stuff, pretty much the original flavour is gone. It's so overpowered by the goo. But a little tiny one of those with a stick was absolutely perfect. And although I'm not fishing sticks here because I'm fishing out of range and I want to be super accurate, if I was fishing slightly closer in or I put bigger rods on, I could definitely fish a stick out there with one of those hook baits. And a little bit of crumb, also flavoured with a garlic, is an absolute winner. Let's get out the old faithful pinks that I started catching on at the start of the session. Pink almond is probably the most popular goo in the range. It's probably the biggest selling one over the years. It's the one we used on underwater 7 and 8 that was like flicking a switch. It was like we had a lure on or something. The fish were just hitting it before they touched anything else on the bottom. It really surprised me. I think it surprised everybody. We tried the Tutti Frutti one, didn't have that much of a response. Put this on and it was just a joke. Basically, the reason I was using it on the start of this session is Buzz, who was in the swim the week before, caught a load of fish on pretty much what I've got here. So a very contrasting colour for out there as well. The bottom's very milky, so if you put something on that sort of colour, you know, it really will stand out. And like I said earlier, pink over the top of yellow is really good. So almond is always worth using. And we'll finish up with something that, you know, most people sort of don't consider in the winter is a match the hatch. So what I've got there is fibre wafters and fibre pop-ups, and they are flavoured. So they've got isotonic on them, so you can see it's virtually stayed the same colour as the original bait, which is what I wanted, to be honest. And if you're feeding loads of fibre and you're fishing all winter long and you're established a boilie and it's really working, you know, been using it for a few months, the fish are crapping it out, you're getting loads of bites, sometimes putting something that looks exactly the same but smells slightly different over the top can get you even faster bites. So I'd have no hesitation using the fibre literally straight out the pot with nothing on it at all, and I've done really well on that. But it's worth, you know, adding a little bit of different goos that you've done well on elsewhere to your sort of food bait, hook baits, and seeing if that gets you a quicker take. So that's what I brought with me for this particular session. Obviously the slow sinking IB maize is the thing that's ruling the roost at the moment, but you never know. I'm going to keep swapping around and I might even find something that's better. Getting all the aspects of the approach bang on right and a generous helping of perfect weather creates a double take. You better take that, Kev. I've got one of the crew to pick up the rod and slow the fish down before it found a snag out in the middle of the lake. Well, absolute carnage. 2 rods gone off together. If I'd been on my own, all I could have done is tighten the clutch and slowed it down. Fortunately, this smaller common didn't put up too much of a struggle, and once safely in the net, I could turn my attention to the other rod. Double plastic, hanging out the gob, get in the net, bosh. I didn't want any real help, so I'd asked Kev to put the rod back on the rests with the line tight. After picking up the rod, I was relieved to feel the fish was still on, proving this hook pattern is super secure, even in barbless. Moving over to a running rig was definitely the right choice. I'm convinced they convert more pickups than a semi-fixed rig, getting me even more bites than a helicopter setup. Plus, I didn't lose another lead for the rest of the session. Come on, big fella. You're an original. Get in that net. Bosh! Got him! Oh, man. Thought it was an original, but it's not. I think it's a stocky. 39 pounds it went. Absolute brute of a fish. And that's the bigger half of that double take. The other one was 21 pound and 12 ounces, a super clean common. And thank God this one was absolutely nailed in the bottom lip on that combi rig with a claw hook. And he was never ever coming off. So an absolute touch. I've got no rods in the water at the moment. And it's time to get more bait out there, get all 3 rods back on the money, and who knows what's behind this one. Just an amazing, amazing January capture. I'm absolutely chuffed to bits.